Hello, besties and bosses. How are you doing? I've been missing going live so much. I can't even tell you. If you're just kind of tuning in, you don't know like why I'm missing going live. I have gone live every week in this group, I think for 8 years, maybe longer, seven. I have for a long, long time. And I started on Substack. Come find me there. Business Inside Out is under my name, Kim Marguson. Actually, dropped a new article today where I'm talking about how I made, was it 168,000-ish from four relationships and nothing from going viral, and how where I think we've really overcorrected and over-indexed in our industry and how it's costing us. I think it's a great read. I highly recommend it. But because of that, and if you caught my last live stream, I have switched our weekly lives to be able to just make sure I'm pouring creating value for you over on Substack. We've turned this into a monthly masterclass, which is what we'll have today. But I have to be so honest, if this is as helpful for anybody to hear, if you're making decisions around platforms to switch or places to be, I love this group. I love going live. It's been such a big part of my life, and I have had some feels about not being here. It's been weird. So I also have good positive feels about being here today, and I'm really looking forward to diving into this conversation. I've got hair on my cat hair on me. I think this is an important conversation. It's one I've been wanting to have for a while. In my head, I feel like I've talked about this a lot. It is something that is part of my messaging. It is the main tagline on my website in terms of helping my clients to learn how to step into their role as a CEO and treat their business like a business is what we're really going to talk about today. And I don't think we've talked about it a whole lot in terms of content. I think I recently there's just been such in a need for talking about what's working right now and a little bit more about strategy and just shifts in the industry, which I think are really important. And yeah, we just haven't had to talk about this as much. So I want to do a mini masterclass style on this today because I think this is such an important conversation. I celebrated my 10-year business anniversary March 1st, so probably since I've been live last. So I think because of that, I've also just been looking a little bit at what has gone into the last 10 years of business, the difference between business now. For those of you who don't know me or are kind of new as you're tuning in, I have a multi six figure one-on-one only practice. We've scaled to just over 2 million in revenue, lifetime revenue. I make a very healthy multi six figures in profit. And yeah, I've been in business for 10 years with only one-on-one. I've been on over 5,000 one-on-one sessions, and I focus primarily or only on one-on-one. I keep saying that. And the reason I say that is just for context, because this also means I'm seeing behind the scenes of so many businesses. I think one of the differences to my business coaching versus someone else, not better or worse, but because I work so intimately with clients, and so many of my clients have worked with me for for many years and are at every stage of business. I have clients who are brand new to business, clients who are making, six figures, 500K, 700K, a million, up to the 2 million plus mark. I'm really seeing over the decade what goes into getting those results, what goes into creating sustainability. And when I look at my own business and that journey, when I look at my clients who are getting those results, yes, of course the strategy matters, but all of my clients have different strategies. And yes, of course, mindset matters, action matters, clarity matters. That is my coaching framework: clarity, mindset, strategy, and action. And the overall big picture, when I look at my clients who are having the most success at staying in business for the long term, it is that they have all continued to do the work to learn how to think like a CEO and treat their business like a business. And I think that's great. Like, awesome, yay, fun tagline. And I also think in practice or in reality, we hear something like that and it's like, what the fuck does that actually mean, Kim? I was talking to a client the other day, and I said something. She's like, oh, she's like, I need to be thinking about this in my business differently. It was like it clicked for her. And that's the conversation I want to have today. So we're not going to talk necessarily like, here's the strategy that's working in your content. I want to talk more about what it actually means to think like a CEO, give you some really tangible examples, and then what it means to treat your business like a business. I have a couple of examples in terms of what that practically means. I'm going to pull up my notes because I do have some specifics here. I'll talk about the mindset shift that really supported me quite a bit in practically being able to get what I want in my business. I will also talk about some of the biggest mistakes I see in our online space that I have seen. I've seen peers and other business owners take their businesses to seven figures and then go out of business or go bust or shut the doors or get burnt out. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Um, and yeah, I've got all sorts of things here, and we'll talk about how to think about that and manage your business. Okay, let's dive in though, because I do have a lot, and I want to make sure We get to all of it. If you have questions, reflections as I'm going through this, throw them at me. I'm happy to answer those live. And if you're watching on the replay, just tag me so that I see that. So one of the first things when I think about this has probably been what has helped me the most when I look at not just longevity in business in terms of being in business for a decade, but in terms of getting results, sustaining results, and being able to scale my business. It's really learning how to shift from making decisions based on emotions or to self-soothe and using my business as a place to self-soothe or as a way to meet my needs or to fix how I feel or to where I get my worth and safety from. So I will break this down a little bit more. But again, I think this is probably the like if I had to summarize anything as like thinking like a CEO, it's probably been this more than anything. What I have I'm an ex-actress. I'm an emotional person. So this does not mean don't feel your feelings. I am a feel your feelings person and coach. I hold space for my clients and all that they are holding that as part of my job. I think our emotions are really important to feel. And as I think my coach Lacey Sites said this first, so let's make sure we're giving credit where credit is due. Your emotions make for a very shitty CEO. And I have really learned from, if I look at my first year in business to now, one of the biggest differences, yes, I can still feel I'm self-regulated. I know how to process my emotions, but I also know not to let my emotions, whether that is a fear emotion, whether that is excitement, right? Excitement over shiny objects. I know not to, whether that's comparison, there's so many things, right, that we can have emotions around, not to let that be where I am making my decisions from and not using my business as a vehicle to get all of my needs met. And I think that one is so important too. I'll give my coach one more bit of credit here. She asked me a question, gosh, I don't know, 7.5, 8 years ago. And she was on my podcast. She shared this on the podcast as well, on my podcast, One Question. And I think this is just such a helpful question to land the plane on this way of CEO thinking, which is what does my business need and what do I need? And the point of this question, if we were to unpack it more like podcast style, is that your business is separate from you, right? You get to have your needs as a human, you get to have your emotions, but your needs and your emotions are separate from your business. And when we enmesh them, that is when we get into a lot of trouble. And that is when we stop treating our business like a business. That's when we stop thinking like a CEO. That's when we start being very reactive. And again, our emotions just make for a really shitty CEO. Our emotions are important, but they don't serve us. And so this is why I talk so much about getting to neutral and really operating from a place of neutrality. There is a great book by Greg McKeown. It Takes What It Takes. I just had to come to the name there. It Takes What It Takes. And he is a sports, like high performance coach, I think was probably the technical title. He speaks so much about the concept of we think we want to be so positive and run from positivity, or we want to avoid negativity, and how either one of those really aren't the best place to operate in sports from. You really want to operate from neutrality. It's the same for us in business. It's not that we don't want to, it's not that positivity isn't great for manifesting. It's not that we don't want to work through negativity and to shift more to the positive, and that there isn't value in that. But in terms of making clear strategic decisions, in terms of making decisions that best serve us, in terms of being able to look at what's the next play ahead for us, either positivity or negativity actually tend to be a little bit on the heightened dysregulated emotional state, as opposed to a more neutral place that just helps us to serves us better as business owners. And so I'm just seeing if I have a question. Okay, no, just let me know if you have questions or if any of this isn't making sense. So practically speaking, I'll just give a couple of pieces here and then we can move to the next part. What this means is I am big on tracking my data. I am big on making data-based decisions, and I still use my intuition. I still listen to my intuition. I'm just very clear that my intuition is different than my emotions. And I also really look at how I can use data to help support my intuition or to help me to see, sometimes I'll see something that's data driven. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. Like, I understand the trade-offs here. I understand, practically speaking, neutrally, this might not be the best decision, but it's just something I want. But then I can make that clearly instead of lying to myself and making a decision based on something false there. The other piece with this, and I think this one for so many of us is such a sticky one. I'm supporting clients with this all of the time, is then similarly, if we're not going to make decisions based on emotion, it also means our business can't be the whole place we get all of our needs met and where we derive our emotional safety and worth from. What I think so many of us who are not feeling financially secure, not feeling emotionally secure, not feeling good enough, who don't feel worthy, who just trying to think of what are some other ones. I mean, I think those are the main ones there. What we tend to do in business, and this is all subconscious, but we do this everywhere in our lives, right? This is psychology. This is how we are as humans. But we tend to look to other things to try to fill those gaps for us to meet our needs. And so if you're not feeling good enough, if you're feeling insecure, if you're not feeling safe, right? It is very easy for us to look at the business and be like, well, I need my business to make me feel worthy. I need my business to make me feel good enough. I need my business to meet all of my financial needs. I need my business to make me feel safe and secure. I'm not saying your business can't give you those things. My business gives me lots of esteem. It gives me lots of fulfillment and pleasure, and it gives me purpose, and it does give me financial security. And if especially as I was growing my business, but even when I'm scaling, if I'm asking my business to meet all of those needs and I'm expecting it to do that, as opposed to saying that can be a byproduct, right? A result of certain things, that's a really sticky place to run our business from. I think the example we can think about is relationships. If you're asking in a relationship somebody to fulfill every single emotional need for you, it doesn't that's a really tough relationship. That's a lot of pressure to put on another human. Versus if you're not asking, if I don't need my husband to make me feel worthy, to make me feel safe, to make me feel important, to make me feel all of these things, right? If I don't need him to give me all of that, it doesn't mean I still can't get those things from him, but it also means I have other places, outlets to get some of those things. So I don't need him to be my end all be all everything, which actually allows us to have a healthier relationship. It actually makes it easier for me to derive those things from the relationship. So, in terms of treating your business like a business, in terms of thinking like a CEO, it's that neutrality. In terms of treating your business like a business in that way, it's just not asking it to be everything for you and to soothe everything for you, right? I think a lot of us will, when we're going through things, project onto our business. It's the easiest thing to do as well because your business will always hand you a problem. Your business will always create some drama if you need it to. It is just so easy when we are. It's why I have a job. So much of my work is yes to support my clients with their strategy and their practical action they're taking and to look at their data and to help them with their launches and to help them with their webinars and their ads and their marketing. And it's also to hold them in all the things they're holding because we see all the time how it's not connected to their business, but it gets really connected because how we're feeling. It's so easy to either have that impact how we're showing up or for us to project, to dump into, to deflect, right? To put it into our business, or for some of my high achievers to kind of bury things and use the business as a way to overfunction or to avoid. So all of that there is normal, it's human, but these are the things we want to keep separating out so we can get more to neutral to think like that CEO. One of the concepts, I think I shared this on a masterclass years ago. I want to be mindful of how I say this because it could be misunderstood, but the way I sometimes think about this in terms of not wanting to use my emotions. I feel my emotions, but not using my emotions as where I make my business decisions from. I call it robot mode. And I call it robot mode more because this is like a funny side story, but I have a stepson who's 15 now. But when I first met him, he was 4, and we got Legos together, and it was like some complicated Lego thing. It was like the first time I met him, and so I thought I put it together for him. And my husband said, "You went into robot mode," meaning it was just sort of like I got super laser focused, and I just like went into like I'm just going to execute on this thing, and it wasn't emotional. It was just like laser focus, neutral, one step in front of the other. Like I'm just going to execute on this thing. That's why I actually say robot mode. But I think that's sometimes a helpful way for us to think about what it means to think like a CEO. It doesn't mean we're robots. It doesn't mean we're not emotional. I think I'm probably one of the most sensitive humans. And like, I don't know, I cry at everything. I'm a very sensitive, emotional human being. I'm a very regulated human being, but I'm a very sensitive human being. I'm by no means a robot. And when I'm thinking like a CEO, and when I'm wanting to look at my business, I really do try to, or I don't even try to. Like it is something that I just snap into more of that neutral robot mode, where it's like, what does the data tell me? What does my business need? And with that, what I was saying, kind of with the example with the Legos, and what I really think about is, and this part has been more challenging for me, but it's just seeing it's not personal. And the reason I say it's more challenging for me is I'm a people person. I'm a relationship person. I'm a one-on-one coach. I'm a coach's coach. I am all about people and relationships. So in many ways, my business is so personal. And when I actually am practically looking at business and treating my business like a business and putting my CEO hat on versus my coaching hat, I really have to look at how it really isn't personal, right? And that's what I mean a little bit with the robot mode as well. It as for as much as we create the personal and it is personal, the practicalities of business really aren't personal. It's really not about Kim as a human or Kim's worth as a human. It is really about the business and the practicalities of that. Um, and again, sometimes easier said than done. That's why we have coaching. That's why I have coaching as well. I will say that personal part is definitely the more challenging part. But I also see, I'll just use a quick example here. The more I can lean into that, the more I do think like a CEO, the more I can be neutral, the more I can treat my business like a business. If I think about, we'll just use content on Instagram, for example. If I'm making stuff personal, it's so easy to get wrapped up around your metrics, how many views you're getting, how many likes you're getting, to get so wrapped around what does somebody think about this? Did I offend someone? Did I not offend someone? Do they like me? Do they not like me? All things that frankly are not our business, we can't control. And the more I can see it as like, it's just not personal. Like, even though it's so personal with content, it's also not personal. These are just metrics and data in my business and just a part of my business. And even when something feels personal because maybe someone's projecting on me or someone's misunderstanding what I say, it's still not personal. It's really about them and what's going on with them. So we have very, 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 very personal businesses, and we need to bring our personality to our businesses, and we need to build relationships and make them personal in that way. So that's where I want to be mindful that we don't misconstrue this. And when we are putting on our CEO hats, when we are treating our business like a business, that's the place where I think it's helpful to see. It is so personal with the relationships, but the practical aspect of business really isn't. It's not personal. It's not about us in that way. It's really, really about our audience, if anything. Okay, I hope that distinction makes sense and isn't confusing. If it is confusing and you want a little bit more clarity, I'm happy to workshop any of this with you. All right, I'm gonna go on to a money piece though. So that's more kind of neutral mindset. That is, I think, like holy grail of mindset as a CEO. When it comes to money, I think this one is so important when we're thinking about treating our business like a business. And I don't know, this way might not be the most popular live stream or mini masterclass because I think what we all want to hear is like, how do I manifest a gazillion dollars? And like, what's the hack to manifesting money? I am all for manifesting. I love me some manifesting. And today we're talking about treating our business like a business and thinking like a CEO. So it's going to be a slightly less manifesting conversation, a little bit more like, I don't know, maybe more practical. But I think the practical is also what helps me to detach and honestly manifest more easily. So the reason I'm prefacing it that way, because I feel like people don't want to hear this, but I think the thing to remember if we're treating our business like a business is that our money in the business isn't really about us and our personal needs. So this is again where like it's not personal comes into play. Money in our business really is separate. And this is a conversation for some I think I don't know, maybe because I acted and that's like having a small business or because I was entrepreneurial from a young age, this is something that's just always been very easy for me to separate in my brain. But I know this is a conversation I've coached so many clients around, and that's really seeing like your money in your business is separate from your personal money, and the money in your business isn't yours. When I share the revenue my business makes, that is not Kim Argetsinger's money. That is Kim Argetsinger LLC's, Kim Argetsinger Coaching LLC, whatever the name of my LLC is money. That money belongs to the business. I get paid from my business. And I think that's really important because otherwise we start to get, we don't treat our business like a business. We start to treat our business like an ATM, or we start to treat our business like, hey, there's this thing I personally want and I need my business to give that to me. Now, this is so nuanced. This does not mean my business doesn't pay me well. This does not mean I don't have beautiful things in my life thanks to my business. This does not mean I don't get to rely on my business to cover, all of our expenses. I'm the breadwinner to, cover health insurance, to cover, I just spent way too much money. Well, not too much money, but I just got 7 earring holes with diamonds and stuff put in my ears this weekend, right? Bougie fun things. It doesn't mean we can't use our money for that. And my business, if I'm putting on my CEO hat and treating my business like a business, practically speaking, like that is a byproduct, that is a result of building a successful business that is profitable. That I am the CEO of, that I'm the owner of. But practically speaking, that is not why my business exists. And practically speaking, the money in my business does not exist so that Kim can go get a bunch of diamonds put into her ears, right? That's a fun thing that honestly, that's a whole nother live stream and conversation. Me enjoying my money and spending money on fun, in air quotes, frivolous things is such an edge for me. So that's why I'm sharing it. My word of the year is self-possessed. It is definitely a part of being self-possessed, and it is so much easier for me to be responsible with my money and put it in the stock market. But I digress. That's a different conversation. Um, but going kind of back to this here, I think understanding that is very important. And part of the reason I say that is if I'm thinking like a CEO and treating my business like a business, and I know that money is separate, that also means from the lens of treating my business like a business, that money belongs to my business. I always want to pay my business and pour back into my business first. I think this is a place where we get a little tripped up in the online space because there's, I don't know, I think we're moving away from this, but at least when I came into the coaching space and online space, and I think this has only started to shift, maybe not even that much, I'm just starting to see a little bit. There was just so much about how much money you could make and the lifestyle it could buy you, which is great. But that right there, this right here is why we see seven-figure businesses go bust. This is why with love, I know people who have made $1 million and then literally been on a call with me crying, saying they have nothing to show for it. And not clients of mine, but just people I know, and who have shut their business down or had to revamp their business. And one of the reasons is because they didn't see the business as an entity that has its own money that pays them. They just saw the business as an ATM that funded their lifestyle, which is great. They had a beautiful lifestyle and got to do all the bougie things, right? Because that's what social media tells us we're supposed to do. And I want to be so mindful. I am so here for that. I am so here for everybody to have that. But that should be the byproduct of what your business pays you versus why your business exists. When we treat our business like a business and see that that money belongs to the business first, what as a CEO, and we think about going back to that initial question that my coach has offered, what does your business need versus what do you need? Most businesses need, if we see it as its own entity, need cash reserves. Most businesses need money invested back into the business. Most businesses, I live in New York City, and if I think about any business here that is existing and has been around for 10 years or more, they are pouring a lot back into the business expenses, the infrastructure, the rent, right? The team. There's so many things the business needs first before we get paid. And I think that's why I'm like, this might not be my most popular live stream ever, because it's not like here's how to manifest. I don't know. This is how you manifest great things, but I think this is also how you keep your business profitable and sustainable for years and years to come. Okay. No one jumped off the live stream, so maybe that isn't too horrible to hear. But with that, what I am always thinking about first, if this is helpful to hear, money does not hit Kim's personal account until it goes through multiple accounts in my business, right? I'm always looking at what does the business need first and how do I invest back into the business. And this is more a personal finance. I'm not a financial planner or advisor, so take this or leave this. But even with that, before I pay myself, it goes into investments. So there's a whole bunch of places my money goes before it ever touches my personal account, which is also why then I feel great enjoying what's left over. But I think the big thing here is not seeing our business like an ATM and not thinking of it as how can my business hurry up and make money to fulfill my personal needs, because again, it's not personal. It's more, what does my business actually need to fulfill the business's needs, right? That's really the shift we want to make as a CEO. And I think that's a tough one for us. And again, I will keep saying this, that does not mean you can't also have your personal needs met, right? Going back to the example we had earlier, does not mean you can't feel fulfilled or you can't feel safe or financially secure, you can't feel worthy. It's just that's not why our business exists, and expecting it to do that for us makes it that much harder, ironically, to have enough cash flow and overflow to be able to pay ourselves all the money we actually want it to give us. Okay, I'm gonna pivot on from that one, but if you do have questions around any of that, just throw it at me. Okay, and next part of thinking like a CEO, I think this is, I feel like so many things here I'm giving caveats to. This one, again, I just want to be mindful of how I explain this because this is something I've heard in the online space that I think has been misused and weaponized a bit. And I do think in the context I want to explain it is a very important part of how we put on our CEO hat and step into that role of a CEO, which is really being able to have personal awareness and take personal responsibility. And the reason I say the online space weaponizes that or misuses is that I have just seen some, I don't know, let's just call them less than ethical coaches use this as a way when somebody isn't getting what they need from a program to say, well, it's on you because you're not taking personal responsibility. And sometimes that's true. And sometimes it's because somebody isn't taking their personal responsibility on their deliverability. But that is a side conversation. When we are putting on our hat as a CEO, it is very important we cultivate self-awareness and we cultivate personal responsibility. And with this, that we understand how to stay in our power. One of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest ways we take off our CEO hat and get into, we could call it an employee mindset, but I think it's also just a disempowering mindset that doesn't have us show up as a CEO and doesn't allow us to treat our business like a business, is giving our power away. I think about this with my coaching clients all of the time. It is so easy when we are feeling stressed, when we're feeling unsure, when we're not sure how to get results. When look, business, I think having a business is the best thing ever, and it is not without challenges. It's not without. It's why I have a job, and I know for me, in my role as a coach and as in my role as a CEO, my job is to hold my clients and to help support them to step into their role as a CEO. That's why it's the tagline on my website. Part of that means my job is to not suddenly become a second boss for them, to not take their power away from them, to not take their freedom and autonomy away from them, to reflect things to them so that I can help encourage them with that self-awareness, but to keep giving that personal responsibility back to them. And I think that is challenging I think coaching is this is like the best sales pitch for coaching ever, isn't it? I think it is very challenging being coached. I think coaching is confronting, but I think good coaching and coaching that is asking you to step into your role as a CEO is also going to keep saying, like, here you go again, here's your stuff again, here's your personal responsibility again. I'm here to hold you in this. I'm here to support you in this. I'm here to be your mirror in this, but I'm not here to be your boss. I'm not here to take this on for you. I'm not here to overfunction for you. I'm not here to pretend this isn't true. Like, if we are a business owner, if we are putting on our CEO hat, treating our business like a business, the thing that gives us all of that freedom and autonomy, and like we don't have to work for a crappy boss, and we get to have flexibility and freedom, with that means we have to also take personal responsibility and see it is kind of all on us. That is what it means to be a CEO. You are the one who is leading. You are the one who is responsible. That even means with team, right? It is so easy when we have team, when we are paying someone to give our power away and to hand off our responsibility. Be like, well, it's on them to get me a result. It's on them to do something, as opposed to like, I mean, I was just having a conversation with a new client. That's just like the challenging thing is we've got to put our CEO hat on sometimes and say, okay, someone isn't delivering, and it is still my responsibility to pay this team for a mistake, or to have the hard conversation with my team, or to let my team go, or in many cases, right, to delegate, to lead, to pay for our team to learn and make mistakes, or to take responsibility for a team member's mistake, even if you didn't do it. And I think those are just hard things as a CEO, but that is what it means to think like a CEO and treat your business like a business. Um, yeah, and I think just kind of like the Cliff Notes version of this, I think one of the mistakes that, I don't love the word mistake, one of the misunderstandings, I think one of the things that marketing can be really misleading around, that is very sexy marketing. I can make this such a sexier conversation and say, I have all the answers. If you hire me, I will just tell you what to do. And basically, I'll take your power away from you and you can get results, right? Who doesn't want that? Who was I just talking to? Is it at the gym? I was just talking to somebody. They're like, I wish somebody could just tell me all of the things to do. Like, I would give them all of my money. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would also love to pay someone to do my push-ups for me and to get the results from that. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, I kind of weirdly secretly love push-ups and working out. But the reality is that's not how it works, especially if we want to have a business that is sustainable and stands the test of time. I think, sometimes that can work for a short period of time, but that also creates a dynamic where then when you're not taking personal responsibility, when you don't have personal awareness and you're not taking personal responsibility and you're giving your power away, that does mean you basically created somebody else has all the power that they're essentially taking from you, whether that's your coach or your team or someone online or your audience or your clients, right? It's just very, very easy to do that. And I don't know, I feel like that's the reason most of us started our business, is because we didn't want to be in situations like that. So in that way, I think it just gets to be the growth learning curve for all of us. I'm going to go to the next one here, unless there's a question. But if you have a question, let me know. Also, Nala, no, I don't know if you can, no, you can't see her, my cat. She might come walk across. She came to hang out. Okay. The next one here that I think is a very important part for us as we are putting on our CEO hats, what it means to be in your CEO role, think like a CEO, treat your business like a business, is to have long-term thinking, time horizon thinking in your business. The simplest way I know how to explain this is CEOs make decisions based on years, maybe quarters, not on weeks and months. And what I think, again, I mean, I honestly, this sounds like I don't love our online space today. I love our online space. I'm so grateful to it. I love social media. I think it's great and it has done so many good things for us. And with every, I always say this, with every light, there's a shadow. There's also just a lot of shadow sides to the online space and to the personal development space and to the coaching space and to the business space online. One of the things that I think has gotten just confused in terms of what it means to be a business owner and to think like a CEO and treat your business like a business is our weird obsession with monthly revenue in like how much we make in a month in business. I speak to that in my marketing as well. So like, I mean, look, I'm guilty of adding to that. I speak to that because that's what people want to hear. And I'm so just a smart marketer. I don't actually think it's the most important or relevant thing at all. And just like as a side note, there's what Kim thinks, and then there's what people need to hear and know. So it's honest and in integrity, but that's where some of that marketing comes from. But in terms of like actually thinking like a business owner, I don't know that there's any other space where people are looking at monthly revenue. They really are looking at maybe at quarters, but usually at yearly marks, 6 months to yearly marks, because revenue is not a straight line, because it takes time for businesses to be profitable, because of so many factors. And I think this is really important because they're thinking long term. Because when we're looking at monthly revenue, what I've really noticed this does is it takes us out of our ability to think like a business owner and it gets us back into our emotions. And what I tend to see is I start to see people measuring their worth based on a 4 week window. They start to measure if their business is working, what their business needs, if they're good enough. Comparison, right? All of these things get measured in this very short time frame. That's kind of not that it's not irrelevant or doesn't matter, but it isn't in the big picture in terms of how long results take and like what actually matters. Like it, one big month is exciting, and again, I will share it for marketing. But I think about this: I had a 52K cash month in December. I mean, that's great. But I also had a 32K month in January. I mean, like, and what's more important is not what I made in 1 month. Like it's just the reason I share that is like it's normal for them to not be the same. But what I'm more interested in is what did my business do over a quarter, over a year, and what is the profitability in that? And how can I think more over than that? How can I get out of the thinking of how can I always like reset the marker every month to like prove myself every month? Or how can I be so focused on just what is like the next couple of days in front of me, which tends to have us make really poor decisions and emotionally driven decisions and often fear-based decisions, as opposed to when I come back to that question of what does my business need? Not only what does my business need this week or next month, of course I'm keeping that in mind, but really what does my business need 6 months from now, a year from now? And that long term and that long view thinking is really where we start to make smarter strategic decisions in business. There, and again, I think this is challenging. This goes back to the money piece in terms of um, seeing that it's not personal. And I understand we all need money to live. I'm not discounting that, but I think this is also why a lot of us had other jobs when we started our businesses, or why when I have clients who are scaling, we don't just look at, okay, you want to scale, how do we scale next month? We're looking at, okay, if this is a long play over however many months or years, and this means you might need to actually temporarily slow down and lower your revenue because you need to build in time to create a new course or to build out a new funnel or to um, build new infrastructure or to add new team members to support a new program, right? We might need to actually cut down on the revenue because we're thinking long term. We're thinking 6 months, a year down the road. Don't mind my animal. That's Nala. If we're not doing that and we're just looking at, but I want this month right now to be when I scale. I want this month to be bigger than the last. I need this month to be a certain amount. It's really tough then to ever scale because we're making then decisions based on right now instead of long term and what's required to create those long term results. Hopefully that's making sense. Um, So I think if we're not taking that long-term view, along with, of course, we have to pay attention to what our business, I need to know what my business needs from me today and what my business needs next month. But I find when we are just looking at that, we tend to lose the whole picture and we create problems that don't exist, but we also tend to often make poor emotionally based or reactionary based decisions instead of strategic decisions, and that really serve the long term and the long game. Playing for the long game. I mean, I think that's why I've been in business for 10 years, but part of that has meant making decisions that in the moment, say no to money making opportunities, for example, in the moment that would help me to have a bigger month, but long term wouldn't serve me. Saying no to, just trying to think of it. I mean, I've said no to clients, for example, which would have meant more money in the moment if that was all I was focused on, instead of really understanding and knowing the long game that I'm playing. I think this is probably a good example. I have multiple clients who either have gone on maternity leave or had a surgery or various things where, because I'm playing the long term and the long game, my interest is in my client and that relationship, and us working together long term. So that's what I'm thinking about. That's how I want to run my business. That's my value as a coach. I also have a revenue share model, so also practically it serves me as a business owner. But that means if I'm looking month to month, there are definitely times, if I look at last year and this year, there are months that are lower in air quotes because I have, three clients who are up for renewal, but I've extended because they've had a surgery or they're on maternity leave or I'm holding a spot for them. Where if I was just interested in short-term thinking and I just need to make as much money as possible to prove something on the internet, or because whatever, Kim needs something and wants something, right? I would maybe not allow for that, which means I wouldn't get the benefit of having a long-term client relationship, and that would change things. Or I would, overbook myself trying to, or over-index myself with marketing, trying to randomly fill a spot, in a way that doesn't serve me. Hopefully that example makes sense. I feel like this one's maybe a little bit nuanced. It probably could be its own, I don't know, whole masterclass. But I think this one is so important for us to be mindful of this and just to understand overall. Yes, of course, it's helpful to think month to month, just in terms of, it's just helpful to know what your business is doing. And I think if you're a business coach, look, whether we like it or not, I do think there's an element of that's what people are used to, and we kind of have to speak the language people are used to in our marketing. Um, and I do think for all of us, there is so much more sustainability and security and, long-term, um, revenue, bigger results, maybe is a better word, scalability, when we are also keeping that long-term thinking. It's sort of like none of us want to be month to month with our finances. So why would we want to do that in our business? Okay. Did I have any other notes here? My cat is hungry. Nala's hungry. That's why she's being, she's prowling. Um, I'm just seeing here if there was anything else I wanted to say on that. I mean, I could probably talk about that for quite a while, but I also want to be mindful of our time. Um, hmm, I guess the other just like note that I will say on, did I have a note on that? The other note I will say on that is, just to like kind of bring it the other way around. I think, and then with that, it, being a CEO also means paying attention to what's going on currently. And so, yes, having that long-term thinking and not only basing on, what's going on in this month, and like being able to look, and some of this also means being able to create a buffer with our finances to be able to support that, whether that is, from a side job when we're building our business, or as you scale, not spending all of your money on lifestyle. So I think that's just important to name that aspect of it. But I think with the long-term thinking, I would just say the other piece of being a CEO is, for as much as I have long-term thinking and I'm making decisions, really thinking not just what does Kim and my business need today, but, and not even next month, but really 6 months, a year. I mean, I set goals at the beginning of this year that I'm really thinking about, like, how does this support me a year, 2 years down the road? I mean, that's what Substack, I do not expect Substack, for example, to, do massive things for my business right now. That is definitely a long game play, or long-term thinking play. And I also am looking at and studying my business daily, weekly, monthly. And so I think that's the nuance I wanted to make sure I closed on with this. Similarly to, I'm paying attention to the business finances and my personal finances daily, weekly, monthly. I'm very on top of that and very in tune with what's going on because, yes, I want to have the long-term vision and I want to keep that long-term thinking in mind, but I also want to see what's happening presently because what I do today also affects the long term. And I want to see where do I need to make those micro shifts and adjustments? Like what trends am I noticing? Am I seeing something that's vastly different this time of year than last year? Am I seeing something with marketing going on that I need to pay attention to? And so I wanted to end with that piece of nuance because that is also CEO thinking and they can sound like they are contradictory, but I think it's being able to hold the big picture long term and seeing, that's really when we're looking at big picture results, what we want to pay attention to. And that doesn't mean that we bury our head in the sand and we're just like, well, in 6 months it'll be fine. In a year it'll be fine. I don't need to, Kim said, I don't need to worry about that. Nobody thinks about monthly revenue. Of course, that also matters. It's just keeping it in context with the overall picture. I hope that all makes sense. I hope that all makes sense for you. I'm going to wrap this up unless we have any questions. But the bow I will put on this is anybody can. There are no barriers to entering the online space. Anybody can start a business, and I think that is a beautiful and wonderful thing. And you can get a really far way in business without thinking like a CEO, without treating your business like a business. And I think when we get to a certain level of revenue, when we want to be able to sustain that, when we want to be able to scale that, when we want to be able to do that in a way that doesn't burn us out, that doesn't make us feel horrible, that doesn't make us feel like our nervous system is just jacked up and we're like constantly in like put out fire mode, or when we're in a place of I just did all of this, I made 7 figures and I want to have something left over to show for it, and I want to be able to repeat this year after year after year. The difference is between somebody we've seen who's made 7 figures and then disappeared and somebody who's been in business for years and years and years and years and continues to be able to make that money and sustain. It's not necessarily that they're a better business owner or their offer is better. So much of it comes back to how they are thinking as a CEO, the way they're showing up in that role as a CEO, and the way they're able to treat their business like a business. And again, of course, like their offer matters, of course, deliverability matters. But when I think about the people I've seen who've come online and who have disappeared in the 10 years I've been in business, and I've seen many very successful multi-7 figure business owners come and go in the time that I've been here. Any of the ones because there are a couple who come to mind, none of them, I'm like, all of them had great marketing, all of them had great offers. All of them had like great business from the outside looking in. I think what we talked about today is, if I had to guess, some of them I knew personally, some of them I don't. If I had to guess, it was some of these pieces, or they got burnt out because they didn't have the tools to know how to step into that CEO role or to treat their business like a business. We could obviously do hours and hours on this just in terms of, treating your business like a business and the systems and the processes and the back end of that. But big picture, I think that ability to remember that your emotions are meant to be felt, but your emotions are not where we want to lead our business from, and that our business obviously gets to give us so much. My business truly gives me so much joy, pleasure, purpose. I always say I would do this for free if I didn't also love money, and if I didn't think investing also changed how we show up for coaching. But when I say my business gives me so much in terms of emotion, it's like, I don't know, I like 10 years in, I used to journal that I just wanted to like have a job that I loved so much that I like woke up every day and felt this fulfilled by. And like, I haven't had anything like this since acting. It is my like chef's kiss, all of the things. It also pays me so beautifully, and I get such an incredible life as a gift and a thank you from that. That is all wonderful, and that is not why my business exists. Like I think that's the part there where it's like, and my business is still separate from me. I still can't go to my business and be like, it is your job to make me feel purpose. It is your job to make me all this money because I want to go on a trip in October. That is a lovely and beautiful byproduct. And so the more we can create that separation, it doesn't mean we can't get it. I think in many ways, the more we can create that separation, put our CEO hat on, know how to step into the role of a CEO, treat our business like a business. I treat my business with so much love and reverence, and I treat it very, very neutrally and very practically. The more we do that, the more I think we're actually able as the byproduct to get all of that wonderful juice. I think about that with my marriage, right? The more I can not expect my husband to be everything for me, the more in many ways I'm like, oh, he's everything for me. So hopefully that doesn't sound like doublespeak and that helps land the plane on this conversation. I will before we hop off because I always forget to say these things, especially when I haven't been live in a while. I wasn't going to offer any more of these. I offered some simplified scaling audits for $99 to my email list, and a bunch of them got snatched up. And in full transparency, I'm like, I don't have a lot of capacity, so I didn't know if I was going to offer any more, but I actually forgot. I announced it on my podcast this week, and I had someone actually text me about it, and I was like, oh, I offered that. So I want to offer this. I want to make sure I'm fair and offer them here as well. I am going to open up one, maybe two more simplified scaling audits. These are $99. This is essentially a chance to get on a one-on-one call with me and get my eyes on your business, and we will take a look and review your business to get clear on what are the biggest challenges, what are the biggest blocks preventing your growth, preventing you from thinking like a CEO and putting that CEO hat on and treating your business like a business. And you'll walk away with clarity on what that biggest opportunity is for you and the right lever to press. That might be clarity, mindset, strategy, and action in terms of what is going to help you to scale in a more simple way. I just had one, and in 45 minutes, it was really remarkable what we were able to uncover in terms of what they thought they need to focus on versus what their next step is in terms of focus to be able to take their revenue to 100K per month. And not that everybody's business will be set up to go to 100K per month, but that was this conversation in particular. I can't make promises obviously for everybody, but from these calls, I pretty much can guarantee you're going to walk away with at least one clear shift and an immediate change that you can make that is going to set you up for business results. I've had people, whether it's been an audit or a single session because they've won that for our giveaways, get results from everything to, I had someone who just emailed me, they took their revenue from 12K to 24K per month after the shifts we made from one call. I've had people go on to make 9K sales, got to pay full client, make a 2K sale just from those audits or single sessions. So I think it's well worth the $99. So if you're feeling pulled in a bunch of directions, if you're not sure how to think like a CEO, if you're not sure how to treat your business like a business, if you're not sure the right next step to take to scale, I invite you to join me, get my eyes on your business. I am fully booked. I think we might have filled the April spot, but if we have this call and you would like to discuss afterwards what it would look like to work together, we can absolutely discuss that, and next upcoming availability for a week-long strategy intensive or ongoing coaching as well. So I'll drop a link for that. I would love to meet a couple of you, and then I was gonna say I'll be back next week, but I will see you all on Substack weekly, my podcast weekly, one question. So those drop, the podcast drops every Monday. Substack goes out every Wednesday. I will drop links for that. And then we will continue. If you're enjoying these, we'll do a monthly masterclass where I'll dive deep into a topic. Let me know in the comments, DM me if you're enjoying the monthly live format, because I'm obviously going to base this on y'all. And if there's any topics in particular you want me to cover here or on the podcast or Substack, let me know. All right. I've missed you all so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for being who's here live, and then everybody who watches on the replay and who listens in the vault. Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you, and I will see you. I will see you in a month, but I will talk to you next week. Bye, y'all.